All right. Hi, good morning, everyone. So I guess we can get started. I can see we have 35 attendees. All right. Um, so hello again. I'm Shivani. I drive marketing functions at Embee, which is an IT organization that's transforming more than 2,000 organizations with technology. And today we have organized this on-demand webinar for organizations that want to empower their employees to work from home in a secure and hassle-free manner. So post this webinar, we will be extending our 100% support in building a free POC based on Windows Virtual Desktop. In case you wish to see it for yourself, how is it going to work for your organization? And that will be absolutely on us. So, but before that, I would request you all who have joined anonymously to please mention your name and organization name in the chat and Q&A section that's towards the right side of your screen. All right. And now I would like to introduce speakers of the webinar. We have with us Nipun, who is an Azure cloud expert with Microsoft. And we have Aman, who is a solution architect, Azure Cloud from Embee. We also have Aziz Kazi, who is Azure Cloud Consultant with Embee, and Aziz has so far successfully configured more than 5,000 users in Windows Virtual Desktop environment. And I'm sure Aman, Nipun, and Aziz can't really wait to talk to you all on how you can achieve unshakable business continuity with WVD. So over to you, Nipun. Let's begin.
Awesome, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thanks again for joining in. So I'll just briefly lay out a quick flow that we will be doing today. I'll just start with sharing my experience and the use cases for Windows Virtual Desktop, or WVD, as we'll call it for the remainder of the presentation. And then Aman will walk you through the finer details of all the design principles that I share. And then towards the second half of this presentation, Aziz will do a quick demo of WVD, show you how it looks and feels like, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. So quickly moving on to what exactly does WVD solve? At the core of this technology is a fully managed virtual desktop infrastructure, or VDI, as a service. And this solves a myriad of business use cases, and we'll cover them one-on-one through the summary that is in front of the slide. So the first piece is on the security and regulation. If you are from the financial services industry or healthcare industry or government public sector kind of setup, where you need a very tightly controlled desktop experience for the end users, things like what is the edition version of the Windows they are using, what are the applications that are being published to them, the data does not reside on a local device. So everything is centrally controlled and managed to ensure that it's a very tight and secure environment. Then WVD is the right choice for you for provisioning these desktops. So you will be able to centrally provision all the desktops. You will be able to centrally scale up and scale down all the users, and you will be able to manage the sessions centrally using WVD, and also publish the applications for those end users centrally using WVD. So centralization, if it is the theme, then WVD is one of the great choices. The second piece is about the flexible workforce. So you will see a lot of scenarios where there are users getting added due to, for example, a merger or acquisition, or if you are setting up a team of short-term employees that need desktops and PCs in a quick way for a very limited time period of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, which is not really the actual age or the tenure of the device, but still they need a full-fledged device to function properly. The third piece on the flexible workforce is when you are adding contractors and partners into your organization, and you need to give them managed access, and you need to be able to control that access. So these are the three major areas on the flexible workforce where you are adding outside workforce into your current workforce, and you need to either quickly give them a desktop, or you probably want to give them in a very controlled way or in a very short way. Then WVD solves this problem. The other piece is when the workers are on the move, for example. So think about a retail shop floor where all the people are on the move. Think about a farm where people are on the move. Think about a factory shop floor where people are on the move, and they might go to a PC or a desktop on their desk, but 60-70% of the time they are walking around. Even say service centers of cars, the advisors are normally walking around and go to their desk once in a while. So all these scenarios where people are on the foot, and even in current scenario where people are working out of home, if you are in the future, work from home is going to become a norm. Earlier, no one thought it was possible, but now it is going to become a part of the business continuity plans, as you never know when the next pandemic will strike. So the bring your own device use cases where people can access their office desktop through any device. And when I say any device, it can be their home PC without any security concerns. It can be an Android mobile phone that they have. It can be an Apple iOS tablet that they have, or it can be even a thin client that is Linux based that you might want to give them as an endpoint. So all the bring your own device and mobile use cases where the endpoint can be anything and your desktop is totally agnostic of the endpoint is one of the other use cases that Windows Virtual Desktop solves very uniquely. Coming to the call centers where there are tons of users that are getting added on almost a weekly basis and tons of users getting removed on a weekly basis, the process is getting changed, publishing applications for them centrally. Oh, it's an administrative nightmare, right? So all of that can be very easily managed using Windows Virtual Desktop. And similarly for branch workers, which are a volatile demand, they are not using their PC that much, or there is a lot of users who can pool onto a single PC, but practically not possible if you invest in that device. So those scenarios are very candidly and very easily solved using Windows Virtual Desktop. Lastly, the specialized workloads where you have heavy requirements like your design and engineering people who require specialized heavy machinery, or you have some legacy applications that are, for example, only running on Windows 7. So Windows Virtual Desktop is the only place where you can still run Windows 7 with extended security updates being given away for free. So all those legacy applications that cannot move on Windows 10 are best run on Windows Virtual Desktop. And lastly, the software dev test labs where the utilization is pretty volatile. Sometimes someone needs a 4-core machine, sometimes someone needs a 16-core machine. It's better addressed in cloud. So whenever there is a requirement of flexibility due to volatile demand, due to the heavy machine that might be required for some of the users who can be pooled together. So all of those workloads are essentially very uniquely solved using WVD. So all in all, it solves variety of industry business scenario, variety of business scenarios, and it is up to your creativity to find out how exactly in your organization, what kind of user profiles are best served using it. But moving on to the design concept of WVD on the next slide, we'll essentially see that the design principles on which WVD is built is something that makes VDI usable. So WVD is VDI as a service. fully managed, and app publishing as a service, fully managed. Now, the objective, the design objectives with which WVD was built by Microsoft was to ensure that it gives the best user experience possible. And this is not a blanket statement to make. There are essentially a lot of optimizations built under the hood to ensure that whosoever is working on WVD feels like they are working on their own PC, on their own laptop, and the performance is exactly similar to that. And during the course of this presentation, we'll see that there are a lot of optimizations right from O365 into the Teams and into the roaming profiles that you can create on WVD using decoupling of the profile data, the actual user data, the operating system, and getting them attached real time into the VMs using the MSIX technology and FSLogix containers. So there is a lot of goodness from a technology standpoint that has been built to make WVD or VDI really usable and not erode the user productivity just for the want of desktop virtualization. That is one key and very important piece. And that's why I heavily recommend all my customers to do a POC and see for themselves how this experience is actually same as a native PC or Windows machine. Then obviously there are security pieces that are top class. There are management pieces that are top class. These are required for ensuring the smooth administration and enterprise hygiene. And it's built on top of Azure backbone. So you get the same standardized global and secure backbone of Azure, where all other services are also running. So you don't need to worry about the certifications, the compliances, the audits, the security, the management piece, and a lot of security piece that comes back with Azure from a wrapper standpoint, not just the service native security. And then obviously it gives a very kicker of an economics from a cost saving perspective, because if you are investing capex in devices, not only their lives are limited to 2-3 years and you need to refresh them, but you are also creating a lot of fragmentation because no user actually uses their device for 24/7, and that's where cloud really comes in handy, because you are only paying for the user when they are actually using the device, and this creates a lot of optimization opportunity in your IT estate. And lastly, we have great partners like Embee on the implementation side, and like Citrix and VMware on the technology side. Even Samsung has joined there to ensure that you have a very holistic experience of this WVD deployment in your organization, and you essentially don't need to compromise on any functionality that might be unique to your organization, or you don't need to worry about administration, not just because the service is fully automated, but even from an administration and deployment standpoint, you already have experts like MB who have done it for so many customers and who bring that expertise on the table to get you started within a matter of hours. So with that, I will pass it on to Aman, who will walk you through these 6 blocks that are currently on your screen and show you one by one on how the user experience, security, and management are top class, and how the backbone of Azure economics and the partner ecosystem come together to deliver a world-class desktop for your users. Over to you, Aman.
Thanks, Nupun. Thanks for sharing your views on WVD environment. I mean, the experience that we have in WVD, it's fabulous, no doubt. So, as we talk about how organization can utilize that WVD environment on Azure, let's move to the benefits available with WVD environment on Azure. So, if organization wants to use WVD on Azure, what benefits they can have? So I'll tell you, the WVD end user experience is the best user experience out there. Let me tell you why. What WVD provides. Full Windows and Office virtualization experience. What do you mean by a full Windows and Office virtualization experience? So you have a Windows view available for your end devices. So whenever your end users log into WVD environment, they have a similar look-alike view available as they're using their own laptops. I mean, it's 99% similar experience and similar view available for your end users. You have Office virtualization available. So if you want to use your Office applications on WVD environment, the same Office application, you can configure it on WVD and you can use it for your end users. So if you want to use Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, all the configuration is possible and your end users can access that. Then you have Windows client application or web applications. So if you want to use Windows client applications on your WVD environment or web applications on WVD environment, that is also possible. So for example, you have some applications configured on premises and you want to leverage and you want to use those applications from on premises to your WVD environment within the security networks, within the security boundaries. So yes, you can configure your client application on WVD environment and your end users can access those applications. And URL access is also possible once they log in into the WVD environment and they open any browser, they can use internal IPs to access the applications and they can use public IPs to access the web applications. So yes, you can leverage your on-premises accessibility with WVD environment as well. Normal scenarios, Outlook and user data require to be persistence for better performance, right? So when it comes to the persistence data, we always ensure we have a dedicated systems available and we have a persistent data available for our end users. But WVD offers the same in a non-persistent environment. And now your Office and other application data can roam with you. So even if your data is non-persistent, WVD provides similar experience to your end users. So whenever they log in into the session servers, it is similar access available and data immediately available to your end users. We are using containerized profiles for your end users. So whenever they are logging into the WVD environment, that every users have their own data available in the containerization environment where they log in into the system and the same disk getting mounted their environment, which is isolated to each other, right? Or we are also having OneDrive full access in a non-persistent environment. So even if you want to attach a OneDrive with WVD environment, that is also possible. See, when it comes to the user experience, we have best experience available in the environment, platform of your choice. You can connect WVD environment using Windows, Mac, Linux environment, or even you can access your WVD environment using URLs. So extremely fast login times. When you log in into a WVD environment, it's millisecond to access the data available within the WVD itself. It's super fast because we are using containerizing user profiles and result is extremely fast login times. We have Windows differentiation. It's look-alike. I mean, the way you are using home PCs, the way the WVD environment is available to you. We have enhanced protocols available that we'll discuss in our next slides. We have securities available within that RDP protocols that helps you to connect with extended devices like printer, cameras, pen, and your printers, etc. Then containerizing user profile that we have already discussed, then native Office 365 performance as well. You can utilize your Office 365 performance with WVD environment as well. So if you have already invested on Office 365 or your Active Directory, you can leverage all these features in WVD environment. You don't have to buy those separately. WVD is a part of your organization. If you're already using such kind of features, you are just leveraging those features in WVD to make it more successful for your organization. Then you have Teams enhancement. So yes, Teams is also supported with WVD environment. If you want to collaborate with your team, with your employees over the Teams in WVD environment, that is also possible. So we will discuss how Teams benefits and all these 6 features helping our customers to bring more value within the organization. So let's move forward. Let's see other part of the picture as well related to the security, right? So when we talk about security, whenever customer planning to move their data from on-premises to Azure or any cloud platform, the first concerns comes into the picture is security, right? So when it comes to security, we have Azure Active Directory integration available with your WVD environment. So if you have on-premises Active Directory available, or if you have Azure Active Directory available, the same you can leverage with your WVD environment. So whenever your end users log in into the WVD, they will use their organization username and password to access the WVD environment. So it is similar for the end users to access their WVD applications. So they don't have to use any other authentication mechanism, or even you can enable multi-factor authentication for the same users using your Active Directory controls. So it is already a part of the solution, and you have that dual factor authentication available inbuilt with your Active Directory system. Then you have reduced attacks surface. So basically, when it comes to the security advantage, there are three major securities we have identified in WVD. The attack surface is reduced because we use reverse connect technology. Essentially, that means we don't open any inbound ports to VMs, so there are fewer places for bad actors to attack. So this will help your RDP protocol is also secure when your end users trying to connect with your WVD environment because of the reverse connect feature available in WVD environment. Then we have role-based access control available in WVD. Role-based access control is basically where you can define user access control over the services available on WVD environment. So it is very easy for you to manage your employees, your engineers to work and configure WVD environment on Azure. You can define role for network engineer to manage network only. You can define role your troubleshoot engineer to manage troubleshooting of the WVD environment only. And you can define owner who is having rights on all the WVD environment, all the deployment components. So that granular access control is also available on Azure called RBAC control. Then you have isolated user sessions. So when we talk about WVD environment on Azure, most of the customer always ask how users is isolated to each other. On a WVD environment, each and every user is isolated to each other. User X does not have any access to user Y, and user Y does not see any data of user X. So every data is isolated to each other, and if you as an admin, if you want to access all the users, you can access all the users, but your end users doesn't have any information related to the second user. So this is related to the security part. Now, when we talk about security and the user experience, how easy it is to manage or create environment, WVD environment on Azure for your management. So how efficient and how simplified it is when it comes to the configuration, right? So user experience management. So we have one service supports both desktop and remote app experience. So when it comes to the on-premises, now you have to configure different groups for desktop virtualization as well, and the remote app experience as well. But on Azure, but on WVD, you have single service available to manage desktop and remote app experience. So only one service you need to learn. And it is very easy for your administrator to learn single service to manage desktop virtualization and remote app virtualization as well. You have flexible user experience available through a single host pool. You can create multiple app groups, you can create multiple applications, and you can create multiple resource groups as well. And you can define accordingly what application is accessible to which resource group. So these are the experience benefit available, and then you have Active Directory credential access available that we have already discussed. So for a start, WVD is one more service in the Azure family. So if you are adopting for WVD, it's more like you're adopting cloud technology in your organization, and your admin will become familiar with Azure. So in short, you are ensuring your company, your organization is also familiar with WVD environment. Your organization is getting familiar with Azure platform, and you are also getting a chance to learn other services on Azure as well, which will definitely help you to bring more value in your organization. So for example, if you see VM management, so VM management comes with the inbuilt services available on Azure. So we have multiple tools available to automate your VM deployment on Azure itself. So if you want to automate your WVD session servers configuration, then we have inbuilt tools available within the service itself, within the Azure itself, that help you to deploy thousands of virtual machines in a single script. So we have ARM template available that we basically build to create thousands of virtual machines in a single go, and we can accordingly define those users groups with the application access in WVD environment. Then we have OS update management tool. So on Azure, we have update management tool available, which helps you to manage your Windows 10 session servers updates, and it also helps you to understand when you can push those updates to the Windows to your virtual machines. Then you have disaster recovery as a service available within the Azure itself that you can leverage with your WVD environment. So Azure Site Recovery is basically a cold DR as a solution available for your virtual machine. So once you configured your WVD environment on Azure and you want to configure DR as a service for your just to ensure your data is secure, Azure Site Recovery will help you to ensure cost-effective solution for your DR as a solution. So Azure Site Recovery basically do the replication of data available within the virtual machine itself to the secondary site. And once the actual DR happens, then only you pay the compute cost. This is the most cost-effective solution available in the market, and that is readily available to configure with WVD environment. So yes, if you want to configure WVD environment and you want to send your data to Azure, we have those capabilities to ensure your data is available 24/7 with you using BCDR technologies. Then we have WVD service management. WVD service management is more like you have one portal available where you can see how the users are behaving in your session servers. So session servers where, for example, you have created 5 session servers in WVD environment and your users is accessing those servers. And you want to identify how many users are connected with session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. So we have one management portal available which will help you to understand how users are behaving in session server, how many connectivities are there, and what kind of application they are accessing. So all these information will be available in front of you in a single panel. You don't have to log in into each and every session server, and you don't have to identify that manually. It's available in front of you all the time. So this is basically help you to simplify your management part in WVD environment, and it's fabulous. So let's move to the architecture part. So when it comes to the architecture, the job of a control plane. So when we talk about WVD environment, so as we know, it's a managed services, right? It's a PaaS services available from Microsoft. So every PaaS service have one control plane available, right? So that control plane is basically to orchestrate the creation of and management of desktops and app session hosts. And it is very important to identify how user is landed to the session servers. So if we see in the RDS world, this was handled through a number of RDS roles called RD Gateway, RD Licensing Server, RD Web, RD Web Client, RD Connection Broker, etc. So these services you have to manage in RDS world. If you are configuring RDS environment on premises, then you have to ensure every role have their own individual virtual machine available. And you have to ensure the high availability is also there for these individual roles. But with WVD, it is no longer necessary to install and manage of any of these roles, as they are now part of the WVD management service. And Microsoft providing this WVD as a service to you to manage your session servers only. So in short, you can consider there's no need to manage RD Gateway, RD Web, RD Session servers, everything managed by Microsoft, and Microsoft is not charging you single penny to manage those services. So in short, you end up saving cost as well, and you don't have to manage any virtual machine for those roles. It is handled by Microsoft itself, and you have uptime guarantee available from Microsoft as well because it's a PaaS services. Now the responsibility comes where customers needs to focus on their application only. So if you see on the right bucket, so the right bucket is basically where you have to manage your desktops, your apps, your Active Directory, and your user profile disk. So this is your responsibility to ensure that application is configured in the right way and the users is also accessing the right application. You just have to focus on your data and your application. The middle part of the box is managed by Microsoft, where Web Access, Diagnostics, Gateway, Broker, SQL, DB is also managed by Microsoft. So you don't have to worry about middle layer at all. And the left side, you just have to ensure you have the required devices available to connect with WVD environment. So this is the high level architecture on WVD environment. So if you have any questions, please put your questions on your chat box. We will answer it as soon as we can do. Right. So platform of your choice, we have already discussed. You have local and remote UIs optimized for various form factors across all supported platform. So all the supported platforms are there, HTML5, Android, Mac OS. If you want to access WVD from Windows, yes, that is possible. Even if you want to access WVD environment using Linux platform, that is also possible. So we have Linux SDKs available, enabled for partners, so they can build their own high performance WVD clients for their Linux endpoints. So if you have Linux based thin clients available on premises, you can connect those thin clients with WVD environment as well. You don't have to invest on Windows thin client as well. So that connectivity, that optimization is also available for our user to create a better experience for our user. RDP enhancement. So this is the most amazing part when it comes to a WVD environment. So we support Windows Hello for Business and Smart Card authentication. So if you want to use fingerprint authentication for a WVD environment, that is also possible. And if you want to use Smart Card authentication, that is also possible with WVD environment for your end users. It dynamically adapting bandwidth utilization. So for example, if your end users bandwidth is not on a required stage, then WVD basically identify the bandwidth available at end user environment and automatically send those content and dynamically decrease that content size and send it to the end user. So it's automatic process, and that decreasing of the content is automatically identified by WVD and send it to your end user. Devices and resource redirection. So as I have mentioned earlier, camera, printer, multi-touch, pen, time zone, clipboard, even you can access all these devices through WVD environment, or even if you want to disable any cut and copy paste from WVD environment to local machine, that is also possible. And dynamic resolution and scaling. So whatever the end user need is there, WVD automatically identify end user need and send the resolution and scaling of the WVD desktop to the end user. So that is also a part of WVD feature. So you don't have to configure it separately. It's already there in the WVD itself. So containerized user profiles enable fast VHD load times, right? So we have what WVD basically do. We create a containerized profiles for every users in WVD environment. So that containerized profile ensure whatever the information users are storing, it's configured in a separate VHD in a containerized profile. So whenever they log into the session server, that profile is getting attached to the users, and the same getting mounted whenever they log in into the session server. So it doesn't matter. I mean, if you are using multi-session environment and you have 5 session servers configured, and your user X is working on session server 1, and suddenly he got disconnected and he moves to session server 2, the same data will be available for your end user. So he doesn't need to worry about the data is getting lost, or the data is not available, or data is only available in session server 1. So whenever they log in into to any session server, the same data will be available in front of the end user. So this is what ensures that you have all the data available, and the performance is also available for your end users. So Teams enhancements, right? So as we discussed, when we enable Teams on WVD environment, so if you want to communicate your Teams users in WVD environment, Azure is using their backbone to ensure we have the high bandwidth available to utilize for the Teams environment. So whenever your users is communicating within the WVD environment and they're collaborating over the Teams in WVD, Microsoft use their backbone to ensure we have required bandwidth available to support Teams. And even if you're using WVD environment for Teams enhancement, you have less network bandwidth compared to USB camera reduction. I mean, WVD supports your less network bandwidth. In Teams environment, you have increased video frame rates available up to 30 FPS. You have enhanced UIs for ease of use in virtualization environment. Everything is supported by WVD environment, and Teams capabilities you can enjoy the way you are doing right now. Granular access controls enables role-based administrator that we have already discussed. So if you can see in the slide how basically we are doing a comparison between on-premises virtualization and WVD environment on Azure. So when it comes to the on-premises virtualization, it's very difficult to manage RBAC control, to manage the deployment, troubleshooting, and manage apps. So you have to provide full rights to your users to access all the data. Then only they are able to manage the deployment and they are able to troubleshoot the WVD environment and manage the apps. But in WVD environment, every user have their own rights available, their own access control available. So if you are the owner of the WVD environment, you can manage whole deployment. If you are the operator, then you can only troubleshoot WVD environment. If you are a contributor, then you can only manage those apps in your session servers. So this is the security benefit available. You can ensure every user have their own bucket available to manage in WVD environment. So this is the difference. So when it comes to a WVD, you can create single session environment and multi-session environment as well. So you can define dedicated virtual machine for your user, and you can create multi-session as well, in which multiple users accessing single virtual machine only. So if you have such kind of requirement available where you want to define a dedicated configuration for your users, so yes, that is also possible in WVD environment. And if you want to utilize multi-session in single VM, that is also possible. And if you want to use hybrid kind of model in which you are using dedicated and the multi-session as well, that is also possible. So you don't have to configure different deployment for single session in WVD or multi-session in WVD. That is supported by WVD itself. So you just have to identify your users and their configuration, and you just have to configure those session servers as per the end users need, and it's available within the single service itself. Then you have on-premises virtualization to WVD. So when we do the comparison between on-premises virtualization and WVD environment, so you have to manage all those roles first. RD gateway roles, where you have to configure RD gateway, RD webs, your connection broker, SQL database, everything you have to manage, and you have to ensure it is up and running 24/7. You have to deploy those virtual machine. You have to manage those update management. You have to ensure the DR setup is also configured, and there's an engineer available to monitor that configuration as well all the time. But in WVD, it is all automated. You have all automated infrastructure available. You have Azure update management tool available to manage your updates. You have scripts available to deploy multiple virtual machines in single go. You have DR as a service available to automate your replication from primary side to secondary side. So all these features readily available to you in WVD environment. That option is not there when it comes to the on-premises virtualization. So simplified management via versatile tools and automation. So Azure is full of multiple services. You can use all these services with your WVD environment, and we have a tremendous amount of services available that we are utilizing right now with our WVD services. So cost-effective compute and storage. So so we have discussed on the features available on WVD environment. Let's see what benefits available when it comes to the compute and storage. So we'll look at compute and storage cost benefits. As you know, compute and storage usually account for 90% of your total infrastructure cost. So it's important to get the best economics here, right? We'll be comparing a WVD with on-premises virtualization and see where WVD advantages comes from, right? So for the on-prem virtualization, on the left-hand side, you will have to provision and pay for peak users regardless of your actual users, right? So it's a total capitalized cost. So even if you are if you're planning to configure 100 users in WVD environment and initially you want to start with 20 users only, you have to pay that hardware cost for 100 users because this is the actual requirement. And you end up paying for 100 users even you are utilizing 20 users in your on-premise environment. This is the cost you are paying, and this is the additional investment you end up doing in on-premises environment. So furthermore, you can in WVD environment, you can choose to only pay for what you use via pay-as-you-go option, which enables you to achieve great cost effectiveness. So in WVD, if you are using 30 users, you pay for 30 users only. If you are using 50 users, you end up paying for 50 users only. And after 2 months, you identify to remove everything from Azure platform. Microsoft will not charge you anything, and you can remove those services, and there will be no cost from the second day itself. So this is the benefit available when it comes to the cloud platform. So furthermore, you can opt for reserve instances option for those VMs you expect to be highly utilized while keeping a low utilization with pay-as-you-go option. So if you have some virtual machines available which is high utilized and you are sure that it is you're going to continue with 24/7, then you can consider reserve instances virtual machine, and reserve instances virtual machine will give you up to 40% discount on your compute. So this is the additional optimization available within the compute itself in WVD environment. This is how you can save more cost in Azure. So as a result for compute, you have up to 30% on VMs with the optimized mix of RI and pay-as-you-go VMs. So it's not like if you want to go with the RI, you have to configure the RI. You can go with mix mode as well. So if you have a pay-as-you-go consumption available, you use your virtual machine in pay-as-you-go as well. If you have a highly utilized virtual machines available, you use RI for highly utilized virtual machines. So yes, the mix mode is also possible when it comes to the optimization. Right. So as you can see in this slide, it's basically defined high capex cost and efficient Opex cost. So basically, when it comes to the cloud model, operational cost is always there in a cloud environment. So you don't have to capitalize your investment. You have whenever you want to utilize those services, you pay for those services only. There is no capital cost you have to invest in cloud environment. So this will help you to ensure to avoid large upfront financial commitments and deployment projects. And it will also match your capacity to operational needs. So if you want additional number of virtual machines for your additional users, you have that environment available in few of clicks. You can match, you can align your resources with your end users requirement in a particular period of time. But when it comes to the on-premises, you have to buy those hardwares, you have to configure those services again, and it will take at least 10 to 15 days to ensure your end users is onboarded in on-premises virtualization environment. But in WVD, it will take hardly 1 or 2 days to onboard those users. So this is the so we'll discuss on the Windows 7 extended support. So if you are using Windows 7 today, the support for Windows 7 will end in January 20. My bad, it is already ended. And it will occur additional costs if you wish to continue to get extended security updates after that. So depends on the calendar year and your Windows 7 licenses tier. The cost per device that we consider for Windows Server security update managements, it's up to $200. However, with WVD, 3-year Windows 7 ESU is already included. So in other words, you can say it can save you up to $200 per device per year if you move to WVD. So Yes, if you move your Windows 7 to WVD environment, you have extended support available for next 3 years. This benefit applies to Windows 7 VMs running in WVD environment on Azure. This is not applicable to for your local devices, right? So if you're moving to cloud platform to WVD environment, then only you are getting 3 years extended support from Microsoft. So if you have those existing licenses available with your organization, then you are eligible to use WVD environment without any additional licenses cost. So if you have Windows Microsoft 365 E3, E5, F1 Business, so if you have any of these licenses available in your organization, you can use WVD client-based environment on Azure without any additional license cost. You just have to pay the compute cost on Azure. Or if you have any Windows Server 2012 R2 and RDS scales with software assurance, then the same licenses you can use on WVD environment in server-based virtualization. So if you want to leverage your existing benefits, that option is also there in WVD. For Windows for Microsoft E3 customers, this is the right time to invest in WVD environment because they don't have to pay any additional cost for the licenses. They just have to pay the compute cost because they've already done the investment for the organization. Thank you, everyone. So now I'll ask Aziz to take over and to help you to understand how the WVD environment looks and what kind of look and feel available when your end users log in into the WVD services on Azure. Aziz, over to you.
Aman,
Aman,
for that,
for that,
can we please
can
have
we please have
names and
names and
organization names
organization
of
names of
the
the
participants who have joined
participants who joined
anonymously?
anonymously?
Okay.
Okay.
Aziz, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Aman, for the brief information on how WVD works and what are the benefits that we're going to get out of WVD environment once we offer in. Thank you, Shivani. So now we'll go ahead and look at how we can access Windows Virtualized Desktop and how the user will see or experience the virtualized environments, because many organization has first question that when we are virtualizing our environment, how are the users going to benefit, how the user going to feel when they are accessing virtual environment, and is it going to be seamless? Because in many cases educating the users becomes very difficult. So in Windows Virtualized Desktop, you have to be rest assured. So we'll go ahead and look at how different ways we can access our virtualized environment. There are three different ways. Basically, one is through your window, through a remote desktop client. There's another way where we can access it from a browser. And also we have support for HTML5 based support from the web browsers. So first, we'll go ahead and take a look at how we can access Windows Virtual Desktop through a remote desktop client, which can be natively installed on any devices of the user's choice, and how the look and feel is going to be. So let me just go ahead and quickly present you the screen here. So as you all can see, there is a client version that can be installed on the user's devices of their choice, which is a remote desktop client, where once you subscribe to your environment, you will be able to go ahead and see the applications or the desktop that has been published. So the three ways three things that an organization can do in order to leverage their organization applications to the users. So either they can publish applications for depending on the users that they have, they can publish light applications for light users. We can have a full-blown desktop session for the users to uh, you know take a look and feel of the entire desktop, or users can have dedicated sessions uh, for the for their own devices. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the session we can connect and how it's going to look like. So as you see, the minute I went ahead and launched my session desktop, within no time, I was able to launch my desktop, and the look and feel remains the same as uh, we do on a normal desktop. And as you can see immediately, all my settings are being uploaded on my desktop session, including my themes. And if you can see here, the OneDrive is also connected, where it's ready to sync all my files, which are available on cloud and on my device on demand. The application access remains the same as natively on a local desktop, which we use in our organization. So as we see, the look and the feel for the users will remain the same. So we have to be rest assured that when the users are going to access the virtualized environment, they will not feel any difference in the
Aziz,
way.
sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, but it's we are not able to see that RDP login into the server from your screen sharing session. Can you just reshare your screen again? Just have a look on that.
Sure, sure. I hope you are able to go ahead and see the screen now.
It's visible
So
now.
once we go ahead and launch the session desktop, I'll just go ahead and quickly sign out from the session and take you through once again. Sorry, I wasn't sure that the desktop is not being seen. So I'm just going ahead and launching the desktop session again here. So once we launch the desktop session, it immediately initiates a remote connection to my virtualized environment, as we spoke in the earlier slides, that it creates a reverse connection when this connection is made to the Windows virtualized environment, and then launches a connection for the users. So uh, as I just launched within fractions of seconds, my desktop is launched up and ready, and it's just like your native Windows 10. How it looks like in your native devices. And as I said, the minute we log in, the user profile details, which are cached into the user profile, immediately starts, uh, you know, adding into my profiles, and the application will start launching it. So as we said, we have Teams support on the Windows virtualized environment. We have OneDrive, which automatically, logs in as soon as the user logs into the Windows virtualized environment, and it starts syncing all your files on demand or on cloud basis on the user requirements. So here we can leverage OneDrive for the users in a better way, because as we know, we all have, if we have Office 365 and if we're using those licenses, we have 1 terabyte of storage available for the users. So users, instead of using local space and spending more on those storage for users, we can leverage users to use OneDrive, which has quite a good amount of space, which they can use to store information, and that can roam easily with the users. As in when they connect to any session machine when they log in the next day. So as we spoke, the data here is not persistent to any particular session machine. It is roaming with the users as and when they connect. So The user profiles are containerized. It is separate for each users, and the containerization works so seamless that the minute you connect, the virtual disk for the users are connected to the session VM, and they can launch their applications and start working on them as they would do on the normal systems. So as we spoke, we just launched Outlook. We just connected to our account. The Excel is the same. The look and feel remains the same for Excel. We have Word. Not only the basic Office applications, we can leverage all the other applications which a company would require in terms of development, basic Office users, or moderate Office users, where they would require Visual Studio, Power BI, any development application like SQL, Visual Studio Code. There are a lot of different types of application organizations are using currently, and yes, we have leveraged those applications in Windows Virtualized environment for different users and different organizations. This is one of the way that you can access your virtualized environment, where you install the Windows Virtual Desktop client, and then from that client you go ahead and launch your desktop. The other way that you can go ahead and access your environment is from an HTML5 web browser, or basically any browser for that matter of fact. That could be Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Internet Explorer. So let me just go ahead and show you how it would look like when you launch the same from your browser. So for this session, we have gone ahead and we're using Mozilla Firefox, because as we generally use Internet Explorer and Chrome, so we thought we'll just use Mozilla and show you how the HTML5 supports on different browsers. So it's not that user can just use one particular browser; it can be used on any browsers. And basically, on this HTML5, what we would like to show you is, the first we saw that it can be published, the desktop can be published directly to the users. In this, we will see how we can also publish just the applications for the user requirements. So in an organization, we might have users who would only require few applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or emails and browsers. So we not necessarily want to go ahead and publish all the entire desktop or applications to the users, where we can segregate in terms of how we want the users to access, or what we want the users to access. So as you see, for this particular setup, we have only published 5 applications. As I am a light user, I only require email access and browser for for my daily work. So all I go is log into my portal. I see my applications. I just click on the applications and allow the connection. So just like we spoke about reverse protocol, it initiates the connection from my end to my WVD environment. It opens a port over there, and then as soon as I enter my credentials, it configures the remote connection, and my application launches just like a normal application would launch. And you can immediately go to a full-blown session from the browser itself, and you can see the application just works as a normal application in a Windows 10 environment. You can go back to all resources and continue to use different applications, and it just launches immediately in the next tab. You can go and open as many applications you want, and it just seamlessly launches and works. So moving back to the presentation, so as we were speaking, that we have definitely leveraged our the Windows virtualized environment with a lot of our premium customers and use case scenarios. Definitely, we would want to go ahead and look at how we have leveraged it to many other customers. So Let's just go ahead and look at the details of the customers that we have. So it's not necessarily that can only leverage light users or medium users. So we have uh, companies who have been using environment for a lot of other purposes. For example, as you can see, these are a set of premium customers that we have, and out of those customers, we have Aegon Life Insurance, who has leveraged Windows virtualized environment. It's been more than 1.5 years that they have been using, and in this time of difficulties, they have leveraged around 1,500 users who are accessing virtualized environment from their home. And those users are not only the basic users, they are developers, they are IT admins, they are IT uh, support engineers, users. They are all working from their home and their devices through virtualized environment. Same goes for GEP. They have leveraged Windows Virtual Desktop globally from US and India. Aegon Life Insurance is operating pan India from different locations. We have uh, Marico, who has enabled Windows Virtualized Desktop. And as far as SG Analytics, they are a complete IT based company where they do analysis and they work on heavy applications like Power BI, Visual Studio Code, development applications, SQLs, and they have leveraged their environment on Windows Virtualized Desktop, and they are working fine. I mean, in these times, people are actually using virtualized environments from their home, and they have been able to successfully do their business as usual, and it is definitely working out for them. So we can also go ahead and see, as you guys have joined in, we can look at how we can leverage Windows virtualized desktop environment for your organization. And we do have some self-assessment that we can do, because right now everyone would have a question whether whether it will suit my environment, how it's going to work for my users, whether the users will be able to access this or that applications, or how we going to extend this support to the users. So definitely we can do a self-assessment here and understand whether we we stand in a place where we can go ahead and analyze our organization need. So we have few set of questions that we can look at to do a self-assessment for the organization. We'll just put across on the screen right now. So we'll go by the questions here quickly. So I mean, as there are certain set of questions which we have on the screen, everyone can just quickly go through that, and I can just brief on that. That basically what I said, that everyone will have a different set of questions in their mind, whether this is going to support my organization or not. So what we will do is we'll definitely go ahead and reach out to each and every one who has participated here and who would be willing to understand. And like we said in the start of the presentation, that yes, we are leveraging this to many organizations as we speak. And for any one of you out there looking forward to go ahead and leverage this for your organization, we are providing a free POC environment to test and understand the look and feel, and how it would work for your organization. So feel free to reach out to us on the next screen. We will also flash out the details where you can connect us. You can also drop in emails to Shivani if you have her contact details already. And we will go ahead and as far as any questions that are left out in this presentation to be answered, we will be answering them and sending across the reply to all of them, so that what kind of question came in and how those answers will help the same. So we will be looking out for you guys to reach out to us, and we will reach out to you and provide you with further details based on your requirements. So I hope this presentation has been fruitful to you guys, and we are looking forward to hear from you, and we start working together to leverage the environment for your organization. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Aziz. And thank you, Nipun and Aman, for all the information. And thanks to all the wonderful audience who were really forward looking and keen on improvising the remote work experience for their teams and co-workers. We would be very happy to extend our support in delivering a free WVD POC for your organization. So just reach out to us. And thanks again for joining us. And we at Embee are absolutely geared up to help you achieve uninterrupted business continuity. Everyone, take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.